All right, we're back at the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're going to talk about LIV Golf Houston, how that shaped up over this past weekend, as it was a pretty fun weekend, as the teams that played very well was kind of a shape up from what we've seen. From the overall standings, it's been the Crushers that are first, and they come away first as they finished tied for fourth at Houston. They've been in first for a long time. They opened the year with a second, a fourth, two first, and since then they haven't given up that first place spot. For the Crushers, that's Bryson DeChambeau's team. Of course, he's been playing some great golf on the LIV Golf Tour. And then John Rahm's team is second. They are still in second. I believe the only change has been the Ripper has fallen off a little bit. I believe the Ripper were third before this, and now you have Torque GC at third. Of course, Torque GC is that Joaquin Niemann team, who Joaquin Niemann has had such a great season and such a great year here. So very impressive that he's been able to, kind of get his team to third a little bit by himself. He's been that great. But Ripper, that's Cam Smith's team. That they are in fourth after the back-to-back wins at Adeline and Singapore. Couldn't get it done when they get back to America. I think they just don't play well in America. It's 10th at Houston, 10th in Miami. They finished third in Honduras. So they just like overseas tournaments. So hopefully when they go back overseas, I believe they have Nashville, and then they're back overseas for them. So, but for this tournament, it was the Cliques that finished first. They finally get a first after a T2 last time out at Singapore. They finished T2 with Fireballs in Singapore and get a first here. And now they are seventh in the standings. They've jumped the Fireballs. I believe they also jumped the Range Goats, who they were behind, who is Bubba Watson's team. It is Bubba Watson's team. They finished 12th this week. Very disappointing team. But as how the leaderboard shaped out, it was Cliques, that is Martin Kramer's team, finished first. Smash, the Brooks Koepka's team, finished second. Fireballs, Sergio Garcia's team, finished third. Four Aces finally gained a good result, finishes fourth. They jump to 10th now with a tied for fourth. Their best result before that was a second, but that was the second tournament of the year, and since then it's been 10, T7, 8, 12, T8 for them. So very disappointing year. They are in 10th. That is Dustin Johnson's team. He hasn't played great golf this year, Dustin Johnson, but was able to get it done this year. It was really on Patrick Reed, who hasn't had a great year at all. He's turned it around a little bit. Crushers are fifth, but they keep their number one spot in the overall standings. It was DeChambeau. Had a pretty good week. Joaquin Niemann's team finished sixth. That's Torque. That's also with Munoz, Pereira, and Ortiz. And then seventh, John Rahm's team with Tyrell Hatton, Vincent, and Surratt. Majestics finished eighth. That's Ian Poulter's team with Westwood, Stenson, and Horsfield. And then you have High Flyers finished ninth this weekend. That's Mickelson's team with Steele, Tringle, and Ogletree. Ripper finished 10th. Of course, that's Cam Smith's team. We already talked about with them. They also have Leishman, Herbert, and Jones. Stinger, 11. Luis Oosthuizen, Burmeister, Grace, and Schwartzel. 12th, the Range Goats. Bubba Watson, Oilane, Wolf, Peters. 13th, Ironheads, Na, Lee, Vincent, and Kozuma. And then when you look at the players, how they shaped up, it's Carlos Ortiz who had the best week of any players, gained the individual victory. Adrian Meronk for Cliques GC finished 14 under. He was tied for second, or he got sole possession of second with Patrick Reed. Or he got sole possession of second. Patrick Reed got third at 13 under. Puig and Garcia were both right behind. And then you have Brooks Koepka at 9. Martin Kamer tied for 9th as well. Dustin Johnson 13th. Gooch at 15th. Sergio Munoz tied for 15th as well. Carlos Schwartzel at 18th. You have Tyrell Hatton, Bryson DeChambeau. Both those guys finished 18th. Bryson DeChambeau going into a U.S. Open now this weekend. Finished 5 under. So maybe a thing to look at when you're looking at his momentum going to that U.S. Open. Maybe it's thrown off a little bit from this result. But some guys that just played some bad golf this weekend, it's Jon Rahm had to withdraw, Luis Oosthuizen, both of them withdrew. So I don't know the reason for either of them withdrawing, so I can't speculate on that too much. Hopefully both of them are doing well. Their injuries not too insurmountable, as both of them are I believe both of them qualify for the U.S. Open, if I'm not mistaken. I know Jon Rahm qualifies for the U.S. Open, so we'll see if we see him at number 2 Pinehurst. You have Bubba Watson, who finished bottom of the barrel pretty much at 6 over. He finished 51. You also have Cam Smith, who is 48th. Ian Poulter, 46th. He had a pretty bad week. You also have Phil Mickelson, 37th. Joaquin Niemann, who has had such a fantastic season, finished tied for 32nd with Harold Varner and a bunch of guys. So, Houston proved to be a very easy course, I would say. A lot of guys were able to go out there and score, but for the ones that weren't able to do so quite as well, they finished at the bottom, and a lot of these guys kind of are consistently at the bottom. I've seen Bubba Watson at the bottom of these leaderboards a lot. He's not playing his best of golf, definitely not playing his best of golf. Phil Mickelson hasn't been really above where he's been at that 37 mark. But it played as a very fun course. There was difficult holes all over the place. We saw it on Thursday. It was a very long course. I believe there was a par 5 that was about 600 yards. All the par 3s were above 200 yards as well. So the greens were a little bit easier. I saw a lot of putts rolling comparative to the Memorial. I mean, I watched these tournaments side by side, and it was kind of night and day. The Memorial, of course, has some of the best greens in the world. And then Houston Golf, I think it's Houston Golf Club is where this event took place, if I'm not mistaken. And they a little bit worse of greens than, of course, the Memorial. But that's comparing apples to oranges, if you will. It was a very entertaining one, though. I mean, LIV Golf has proved to be entertaining ever since its inception. You can count on that. The Memorial, in my opinion, was a little bit more entertaining because you have Scottie Scheffler doing so well and Colin Morikawa right on his tail, and then some guys like Victor Hovland, who was competing and then kind of fell off. For this, it's a little bit hard for me to really get into this as much as I did the Memorial, just because I know these guys are more or less. I mean, Bryson DeChambeau kind of uses this to play for the U.S. Open, and I think he's kind of open about that. Of course, he does care about how his team does and how he does individually on the LIV Golf. He signed up to win, and he is a competitor. But for him, he got right to North Carolina, right to the number 2 U.S. Pinehurst. He's over there so excited to get on with the U.S. Open. I just feel like for him, it's just a little taste of the taste of what happened at the PGA Championship, how he was so close to getting into a playoff against Xander Schauffele. I mean, he was warming up for a playoff and found out on the practice screen, I think he was on, that he lost and Xander Schauffele made his putt on 18. So for him, maybe a little revenge is in the cards. He's going to be one to look out for. I know. I'm so excited to see how he plays at the U.S. Open at number 2 Pinehurst, as that will be our next segment as we finish up talking about the LIV Golf Tour. Of course, when we're looking at the team standings, how they shape out, not much movement. Cliques move up a little bit, but not too much, and it is the top 4 teams really so close to each other. Besides Crushers and Legion, there is a little bit of a gap, about a 17-point gap between first and second. But it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this shapes up, as there are 5 tournaments left in the LIV Golf season. But moving on, we have the U.S. Open news and what's going on over there, as there are a few things to talk about that's going on in North Carolina right now.